welcome back and welcome to my January wrap-up. I apologise for the fact that this video is going up so late, but I'm not the one that put the Oscars so early in February. Last year they were on the 24th of February, this year they were on the 9th, so anyway, I shared my blog post with my January wrap-up on the 1st of February, so it's fine. You've known if you follow my blog, which is always linked in the description box. A lot of these books that I am going to talk about, I have already reviewed or have reviews coming up on the blog. So if you want to know, I'll try and talk about the ones I know are already up. But there's a bit of like, when this video goes up, I don't know which ones are going to be up because of my February TBR. But yes, blog is always linked in the description box, as are all my social media and Goodreads. So if you ever want to know what I'm reading at any one point, you can follow me on there. First of all, let's talk about ebooks. My little Kindle this month has been busy. I did manage to read a book for every day of the month in January, which I think is pretty good if we're including the ones that I put down again. And some graphic novels. I had a graphic novel Sunday, which was fun. I have a video talking all about that. I'll leave it linked up here. We have Make Do and Mend a Broken Heart by Katie Lovell, which was just wonderful and stunning and came out in that very first week of January, which has been January the 10th, 8th, 6th. I don't know. The first week of January. Well, the first was a Wednesday. So the second was Thursday. 9th? January the 9th, yes, the 9th. Let's do adding on. This was just a lovely, heartwarming, comforting story. I highly recommend. If it's still on Kindle deal, it's only 99p at the minute, so go out and get that whilst you still can. Then I read We Used to Be Friends by Amy Spalding, which is a young adult novel about what happens when you kind of drift apart from your best friend. She's always been your best friend throughout school. Now you're seniors in school and you've had a falling out. She's got a new friend. You might have a new friend. You might not have a new friend. And that's what happens. So I love the premise behind this novel, but it was a little bit disappointing, this one. I read all of it and I reviewed it, and you can read my review on the blog, but yeah, I was just a little bit disappointed. I felt like she could have done more with it, and it could have been done slightly better because I love the premise behind it. It's got a diverse cast of characters, it's got some really poignant moments in it, but I just feel like it wasn't kind of enough. It wasn't memorable. It didn't kind of feel like it had that oomph behind it as I was reading it, so that was a little bit disappointing because I was very excited about this one. Then I read The Telephone Box Library by Rachel Lucas, which I was excited about because I have seen some telephone box libraries, and I like the storyline of someone moving from a big city to a smaller town and being involved in the community, a bit like in Make Do and Mend a Broken Heart by Katie Lovell. These two books, I was going to read The Telephone Box Library straight after Make Do and Mend a Broken Heart, but then I realised they were very similar and I didn't want to get them mixed up, so I left The Telephone Box Library until the end of the month, and I just really enjoyed it. It was very sweet, and had a lot going on, and had an older character that is not kind of and requires everyone's help to do things. She has her own way, and she was involved in all the kind of code cracking stuff that went on at Bletchley Park, and this book is set around Bletchley Park, so that's an interesting subplot in the book as well. Enjoyed this one. And then I read the first in a new series, Broken Hearts at Brightwater Bay by Holly Hepburn. She has a new series of 4 coming out this year. The first of them came out in January. I have a review of it on the blog, and then the next one I think comes out in April. I want to say they're like April, July and October, I think, but they're all set around Brightwater Bay, and this is up in Orkney. So again, if you want a book to escape to a small town, this is the series for you. I loved this. I stormed through it as soon as it hit my Kindle and reviewed it straight away because, you know, review books if you love them. Then moving on to some physical books. I feel like I have more to talk about this month in terms of physical books. Normally it's all like, and I read this on audio, and I read this on audio, and this was also on audio, but I have some physical books to talk about. As I say, I did the graphic novel reading Sunday, which I vlogged my thoughts on. So if you want to know more details about that, you should go and watch that video. The graphic novel of The Handmaid's Tale, of course, had holds on it at the library, so I had to take that back before I could film this video, but I did film that video talking about it before I had to take it back, so you can see me with that book in that video. So that's the first physical book. Then the other graphic novels we read were The Best We Could Do by Tai Bui, which is a graphic memoir. It's quite hard hitting. I talk more about it in that video. And then Cub by Cynthia L. Copeland, which was sent to me by Crystal, and this one came out in January as well, so it's very exciting. This is also a graphic memoir, but a middle grade graphic memoir, so that makes it a little bit different. And then we have White Bird by RJ Palacio, which I believe has been shortlisted for some awards, or longlisted for some awards as well, because of its representation of the Holocaust. And I just really enjoyed this one because it's RJ Palacio, and the print that I got at BookCon or Book Expo, which it is one of the illustrations in the book. The print means so much more now. When I got it, I was like, oh, it's not the book, it's just a print, but it means a lot more now. And it's the fact that it's signed as well, and this is just lovely. And I love the fact that she has this gorgeous red hair. Like, I couldn't take my eyes off the illustration of her hair throughout the book. Then I have Generation Friends by Saul Austerlitz, which, why did I read this after Friends had come off of Netflix? Like, why did I do that? I do have the Blu-rays, of course I have the Blu-rays, but I really just need to sit down and like binge watch all of Friends now, which is what I said after I read I'll Be There For You in the summer. Both of these books do amazing jobs. I wouldn't say you needed to read both. I would slightly preferred I'll Be There For You over Generation Friends. This one kind of takes a look a little bit more at like the making of the show and the ins and outs and the production and the direction and the editing, whereas I'll Be There For You looks at the popularity and the episodes and the actors and the controversies and kind of the dating of it. So they do different things, but if you're just a Friends fan who's looking for a kind of companion to read along with, I would say I'll Be There For You is slightly more interesting because it's a little bit more analytical, whereas if you like the production side of TV and film, then this one is for you because it goes into that a little bit more. But I enjoyed both of them, and I really did enjoy both of them. Then I read Tweet Cute by Emma Lord because everybody was talking about this book. This book is so cute, it's so lovely. It makes me want to go and be in New York right now, and it will also make you hungry for grilled cheese. So this one comes with a caveat of that. We have some diverse characters, we have some lovely romance, and we have some people who know how to code and use social media effectively, which I always appreciate in a book, and I can see why people were raving about it, and I just enjoyed my time with this one. It was so cute. Tweet cute, very cute. Then I read Going the Distance by Beth Reekles, which is the sequel to The Kissing Booth. So what I did was I actually rewatched the movie of The Kissing Booth. I have a book versus movie of The Kissing Booth here on this channel, so I will leave it linked up here for you. But I rewatched the movie before going into reading the book. And it was a really good sequel. If you like The Kissing Booth, you're going to like this one. If you haven't watched The Kissing Booth, not as much of this one, or haven't read The Kissing Booth, not as much of this one will make sense. I would say it's one of those sequels where you do need to read the first book first, but they're quite short books. So I don't know why I've still got a bookmark in there because I finished it. They are quite short books, so they're quite easy to get through, and I think it would be a great pleasure to reread The Kissing Booth and then read Going the Distance like together, or to read for the first time The Kissing Booth and then read Going the Distance. And there are a couple of Kissing Booth novellas that are out as well, which you can read alongside these two. Yay! Don't know why I didn't do that this month. And then one of my buddy reads this month was Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. And this is a collection of short stories which focus on kind of horror aspects of women's bodies, and so 8 short stories that map the reality of women's lives and the violence visited upon their bodies, earthly and otherworldly, antic and sexy, queer and caustic, comic and deadly serious. And it was really interesting doing this as a buddy read, because we did this as one short story a day and then discussed it, and all of the stories were so different from one another, and Bethany and I had differing opinions on quite a lot of the stories as well. So it was a great one to do as a buddy read, and I'm in the process of reviewing it because I wanted to review each story individually, because I definitely had very different thoughts on a lot of the stories. Some of them I really liked, some of them I didn't like, and some of them were just very different. So yeah, if you're thinking of picking this one up, I do recommend it. I think it was a really interesting thing to read and very much outside of my comfort zone. And then another buddy read I did that was a physical book. I read this with my lovely friend Hayley, who was doing the Page Tune read along with me currently. We read Mr. Nobody by Catherine Steadman, which came out in the US on the 7th of January and the UK on the 9th of January. And I'm wiggling it because it's got this embossed title. He wants to remember, she needs to forget. It's a thriller, it's very thrilling, it's very exciting, and it's a slow drip of information, and it's just brilliant because of that. It's not like, here's the information, here's an event that's happening. It's not fast-paced like that. It's, you have to turn the page because you have to find out another little tiny nugget of information, and you won't find out everything until the very last page. And that is how I like my thrillers. So I really enjoyed this one and highly recommend it. It's one of my favourite books that I read this month for sure. So that is the physical books I have to talk about. Then we have audiobooks. We have audiobooks that I have physical copies of. So I'll talk about those first and then talk about the audiobooks that I don't have physical copies of. I finally got round to reading The Whisper Man by Alex North. I listened to this on audiobook and I enjoyed it. As a thriller, I wouldn't say it's as good as Mr. Nobody. A lot of people have said that it's, you know, amazing, and there's been a lot of hype surrounding it. I thought the audio was really good because this is set in the north of England and it has a northern narrator, and for that reason I enjoyed the audio, and I'm glad I picked it up on audio. But it's not as memorable as some of the other thrillers that I've read, so this was kind of a solid like 3.5 star read for me, but I don't think it stood up to the hype, just honestly. Then I listened to Reckoning, which was sent to me for review. This one is by Linda Hirschman, and it's the epic battle against sexual abuse and harassment, and this comes out of the hashtag Me Too movement. And what I think is really good about this book is the fact that we've got the different chapters cover different subjects. So we've got Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. We've got sort of feminism reborn online, and talks about the feminist movement online. And then we come up to 2018. So we've got The Press and the Dam Breaks, Harvey Weinstein. We've got hashtag Me Too, and then yeah, we've got the Year of the Reckoning in 2018. And so I really like the way this was structured. It doesn't cover everything, so if you're looking for a book that kind of covers everything, this is definitely done through things that go on in the media, and obviously you've got the pictures of the Women's March with the pink pussy hats there. But I thought I really enjoyed the structure of it, and I like the fact that if I wasn't as interested in a particular chapter, I could kind of jump to another chapter, or you could read it in any order. And it all links back to a few particular studies that kind of kick things off right at the beginning of the book. So I definitely think you need to read the first couple of chapters, but then you could jump about and read other chapters in any order. And I really enjoyed this one, and I thought that it was sort of educational and informative, but sometimes you want to have a little bit more opinion mixed in there. So you would want to read this alongside reading something else that has a bit more kind of feminist opinion. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good, and the audio is very good as well. Then I listened to Mrs. Fletcher by Tom Perrotta, which I have a book versus movie / TV show coming up for you, so I'm not going to talk about this one, but make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss that book versus TV show that is coming up. It's already filmed, it's ready to go, might already be up by the time you've watched this. If it is, I'll link it obviously. Then I listened to One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. I need to write my review of this one. As of filming this, I haven't reviewed it yet, but as you watch it, I will have. But the reason I haven't written my review of this one is because I was kind of disappointed in it. I loved One of Us Is Lying. And then last year I read Two Can Keep a Secret. I was disappointed in it. And I was really hoping that One of Us Is Next, because it is a sequel to One of Us Is Lying, was going to be better. But I just didn't enjoy it very much. And I was kind of slightly bored by it. I had a bit of trouble keeping track of who was who. And I think that's possibly because I did it on audio. But I did switch and try doing the physical copy of it. Which I did have a bookmark in here, but I think it's gone. But yeah, I was just a bit disappointed in that one, and that's why I've had trouble writing my review of it, because I don't know what I really have to say about it. I was like, just wasn't that great. Then I listened to Look Both Ways by Jason Reynolds. This is a middle grade collection of 10 short stories. It's a tale told in 10 blocks. So it's one neighborhood. The kids all go to the same school, but the stories are only interconnected because of that. You might see a character pop up very briefly from one story into the next. You might see a character like walking past another character, but other than that, they are not interconnected. What I really enjoyed about this book was the fact that Jason Reynolds' poetic abilities really come through in this one, and I love his poetry, and I love what he's done previously, and I like the fact that it really did come through in this one. But yeah, they're all done by different like street names, and we have different characters in them, and I just enjoyed all of them. I have already reviewed this one on my blog, so you can go and take a look at that one, but I basically say the same as what I just said there. I was trying to give you a good example of the poetry. This is kind of a bit of an example here, but it doesn't really come across. You just need to read it, and then you'll get the poetry. And the audiobook was done really well, I have to say. It was very good, and I listened to it in one big gulp. Then I listened to the audiobook of Room by Emma Donoghue. I had seen the movie before, but I wanted to read the book so I could rewatch the movie and bring you a book versus movie. So that is coming up very soon. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. And oh wow, I was just blown away by the book. I thought the book was so good. I thought the movie was amazing from what I remember. I haven't rewatched it yet. Talk a bit more about that in the book versus movie, but the book was so good. If you haven't read the book and you think, oh, I've seen the movie, I don't need to read the book, read the book. I'll talk about it a little bit more in that book versus movie video, but read the book. It was really good. The audiobook was great. Just, oh, it was so good. I so enjoyed my time with that. Then a couple of audiobooks that I do not have physical copies of here. I read We Are Not Okay by Natalia Gomez, which is set around a school, I believe it's in Scotland. And this one is 4 girls, 4 voices, all unheard, and just the shit that goes on between teenage girls, the horrible things that they say and do to one another at a time when all of them could do with each other's support. And it's just very real, and very like true to home, but just a really good book. It was not the book I was expecting it to be. I think going into it, I maybe thought it was a different book. But once I started listening to it, I was hooked and I really enjoyed it. And it's narrated really well. We have some Scottish voices in there. And I think that that's a really good thing. And you need to read it if you have not come across how horrible teenage girls can be to one another. You need to read this book. It's eye-opening and very true. Then I also listened to Inside Out by Demi Moore, which is her memoir, and when this came out there was a lot of scandal surrounding it, but for me it was just an honest account of her life. I feel like I learned an awful lot about her. I love the fact that when she goes into a relationship, she is all in that relationship. I respect that about her. And you know, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and so the shtick that she's got for some of the things that she said in this book, I think it's undeserved. And I just really enjoyed spending the time in the book with her. We went off on a walk together, and I really liked what she had to say about her relationships and her family, and how there she is for her family. And yeah, the kind of struggles she's had as an actress. I really enjoyed it. I really recommend it. Definitely do the audiobook, because then she's reading it to you. She's literally chatting to you about her life. What could be better than that? And then the first book that I actually finished this year was The Witches Are Coming by Lindy West, which is her follow-up book following Shrill, which is obviously now a hit television show, and was just fabulous. And if you like Shrill, you will like this one. If you are looking for something more opinionated to go with your copy of Reckoning, I would recommend this one. It's got a lot of opinion in there, and did make me feel like a bad feminist at points, but then, you know, I'm not going to feel guilty about the way I handle my own feminism. So yeah, definitely thought-provoking. Then I listened to Unexpected Lessons in Love. I listened to this as part of the About a Books Readathon, which, if you haven't already seen it, I have a whole vlog talking about that, so, you know, it'll have been linked at some point. This is by Lucy Dillon and came out, so the paperback was released on the 9th of January in the UK, but the ebook and the audiobook seem to have come out in December, and I just missed them. But this one was just really good. It had some lovely dogs in it and had some really poignant moments, and I just really enjoyed it, and I just really recommend it. And if you're a Lucy Dillon fan, it is exactly the same like feeling and loveliness of her other books, so just really recommend this one. Then I listened to All I Know Now by Carrie Hope Fletcher, which is her kind of memoir type thing that she released a few years ago, so it is somewhat dated now. However, I have been following her YouTube channel for many years, and I have read her fiction books that she has released, so I was interested to read this one. It's got, like I say, it does date a little bit, I have to say. But aside from that, a lot of the things she's saying still stand up today. It's just some of the ways in which she said and some of the personal experiences that she uses as examples don't stand up any longer, because she is obviously a different person now, and being in your mid to early 20s versus being in your late 20s is a very different thing. But I enjoyed it, and I pretty much listened to it in one chunk, and it was kind of nice to have her in my ear as I was doing other things. Then I listened to Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, which was highly recommended to me by several people, and is one of the kind of big debut releases that has come out this year. It's got a lot of buzz. You know, you look at magazines in the library and things like that, and it's in there, and it's on people's lists and on Goodreads lists and what have you. So this one surrounds a nanny who is working for a family, and the nanny is black and the family is white, and she's stopped in the supermarket one evening because the security person in the supermarket sees a black girl out late with a white little girl and thinks that she's kidnapped her. And then we have the fallout from all of that about white privilege and about the difference in society based on whether you are black or whether you are white, and it was just really entertaining. So it's got that message in there, however it's not pushed as this book is just about this message. We get to know about the lives of our nanny and the family, and there's a bit of romance in there, and there's a bit of growing up in there, and there's a little bit of, you know, self-doubt and self-confidence in there, and I just really enjoyed it. I can see why it's getting a lot of hype. It didn't like blow me away. It wasn't, you know, absolutely stunning, best book I've ever read, you must read this book, but I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was entertaining, and I liked what it had to say, and yeah, it was interesting. And it was also set in Philadelphia, and I don't think I've read an awful lot of books set in Philadelphia that aren't written by Jennifer Weiner. So it was interesting to read a different book by her. And then I had two books that I did not finish this month, both of which I read on audio, even though I have physical copies of them. So the Photographer of the Lost by Caroline Scott. You know, I started the physical book of this previously, and then I bought the audiobook and downloaded it and restarted it because I thought perhaps doing it on audio might make it easier for me, and it just wasn't me. I literally read about half of it and I just still wasn't connecting with the characters or the storyline. I couldn't tell you exactly what it's about. Other people will love this one, but I think this possibly fell foul of me not being particularly interested in historical fiction, and so it just wasn't for me, so I put it down. And then another book which I was excited to read, obviously I bought a copy of this book, and then my audio hold came in the library, and this is Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune by Roselle Lim. And I was expecting this book to be something other than what it was. Obviously it's set in San Francisco. Apparently it's full of delicious recipes and it's magical and it's about heritage and finding family, and it just wasn't connecting with me. I listened to about a quarter of it and I couldn't tell you what was going on, couldn't tell you that I was invested in the storyline or any of the characters, and so I put it down. So in terms of the Get Shit Done readathon that I was doing this month, number one was to read a book from a subscription box, so I did that because I read The Whisper Man by Alex North. Number two was to read a book that's been on your TBR the longest. I would say that Room by Emma Donoghue has been on my TBR for a long time because I've been wanting to read it, having enjoyed the movie whenever it came out that I watched on a plane. Number three was to read a classic, so I read the graphic novel The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood and really enjoyed it, and I don't know why it took me so long to get around to reading this one. Number four was to finish a book you put down. So originally I wanted to do this for The Photographer of the Lost by Caroline Scott, but I didn't actually read the entirety of that one. So I counted this one as Reckoning by Linda Hirschman because when this was first sent to me, I read the first chapter and then put it down and then only re-picked it up again now, and I did restart it as well, so I did read it from start to finish. Start or end a series was challenge number 5, and I read the first book in the Brightwater Bay series, which was Broken Hearts at Brightwater Bay by Holly Hepburn. And then number 6 was to read a book for review or a book that was a gift. I read Cub, which was gifted to me. Telephone Box Library was for review. Mr. Nobody was for review. We Used to Be Friends was for review. Make Do Amend a Broken Heart was for review. And Unexpected Lessons in Love was for review. And I have written reviews for a lot of the other books that I read this month as well. So definitely knocked that challenge out of the park. And then the bonus challenge was to read a book that meets 3+ prompts. However, I don't really feel like I did that. If I'd read The Photographer Lost and finished it, it would have been a book that's been on my TBR for ages that was sent to me for review that I had put down and picked up again, but I didn't finish that one, so I didn't meet that challenge. But it was nice to have those prompts to pick up some of the other books I picked up around my review books this month. So yeah, I think I've done well to talk about 31 books in less than 30 minutes. I'm sorry this video has been so long. I'm sorry this video is so late, but it's here now and you're here and I'm here and everything's fine. If you enjoyed this video or if you've made it this far, let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed so that those book versus movie videos that I have coming up for you land in your subscription feed ASAP. Yeah, this video's gone up so late. But it's fine. It's the Oscars' fault. It's the Oscars' fault. It's fine. I will be back with another bookish video for you very soon. So I will see you then.